How to keep a healthy relationship with fitness and nutrition as a girl in her 20s. Kind of more specifically on relationships with food, about advice for moving to a new city without knowing anyone. How to find fellowship in a new home. How to date in your 20s. How to have faith that there's still good guys out there. On modesty. How to know someone's purpose in your life. Best way to balance a busy schedule. How to support each other's faith as friends. How to grow in your relationship with the Lord. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of From the Heart. Today's clearly not a solo episode. I have a guest on. This is Emma Wackman, aka my best friend / brother's girlfriend, soon to be probably like sister-in-law, like my sister. Emma, do you want to give them like a little description on like who you are in case they don't know? Because I've probably seen her if you follow me on Instagram.
Yes, I feel like we are constantly with each other every single second now. But yes, I am Jake's girlfriend. I'm Emma. I'm 20. I've lived in Arizona for about 8 years now. I love health and wellness, fitness. I work at a golf course. It's just kind of...
We're very similar. We're very similar, like with our interests and our hobbies and stuff, and I think that's why we get along so well. Like we hang out without the boys a lot.
Oh yeah, they
so
really
fun.
Screwed themselves over with that one.
Yeah,
because now we talk about everything and they have no idea.
They don't even know. They left us for Alaska for 10 days and we like bonded.
I tell them all the time, I'm like, you guys messed up.
Yeah, their fault. Like that's when we were like close, but that like made us like close.
Oh
like,
yeah, we had no choice but to be with each other for 10
days straight. Like she was on my birthday trip with me and we were together like all the time.
It was fun.
But it was fun. It was great.
It was a
now
great
look
time.
at us. Now she's on my podcast and we have so many good questions. So we kind of did a Q&A / like advice session. So this would be more of us giving advice to you guys rather than like just a broad Q&A of us. It's more us to help you. Because Emma and I, like I said, we're very similar.
I swear we just have the best advice.
I know.
Like we'll be sitting here and we'll just be talking. We're like, podcast.
Yeah.
Podcast.
No,
like,
seriously.
We just start talking about stuff and we're like, dang, we should actually give advice to people.
Yeah.
So we'll see how this goes.
Like, no, we'll be like preaching to each other and we're like, good.
Write it down. Write it down so you don't forget it.
Yeah. So this is going to be really good. It's going to be very insightful. The advice you guys is like asked is very broad. So we have things from kind of being a girl in our 20s. A lot of you guys ask questions about our faith and being a Christian, especially Christian relationships. We're both in relationships, obviously, and how to kind of navigate that, how to just navigate being a Christian in this day and age as a 20-year-old, which is interesting. Confidence questions, how to just manage our life in general, how to grow your faith as a Christian, and advice for like moving, because like Emma said,
friendships,
she hasn't been in Arizona forever, so she was like the new girl one time too, so we both can kind of relate, but we have different experiences with that. So I think this will be really interesting hearing both of our takes, because we've experienced all of this, but
in similar ways and in very different ways. And I think we both have good perspectives of both, but can also relate on lots of different levels as well. So it should be good.
I'm excited. Okay. First question, we'll just hop right in, is how to keep a healthy relationship with fitness and nutrition as a girl in her 20s. I mean, this is hard. I feel like this is a tough from like 14 to like now it's been hard, but I feel like it gets even harder in your 20s because you have so many more factors in your life to like also maintain.
I think it's that, but also your body changes so much from ages like 16 to 25 too, like even more, I guess. I don't really know fully, but I think there's a lot of times where I look back and I'm like, my body doesn't look how it did when I was 16, let alone 18. Like I just turned 20, but it's never going to be fully a healthy relationship as long as we have social media. Like I think you can try your best, but I think it's a lot like a mental thing where you have to be like, okay, she posted a picture, she looks great, and she still can look great in person, but like there's angles, there's lighting, and nothing is exactly how it looks online. So I think as long as we have social media around, it's never going to be like, I feel amazing about my body every single day. And also as women, like we have different like fluctuation periods throughout the month where you wake up one day and you're like, wow, I'm not feeling great about myself today. And then there are other days where you feel like you could literally rule the entire world. So I think it's like, it's never going to be a fully 100% healthy relationship, but you can try your best to like improve it. I like that like perspective, because it's like, I think we put a pressure on ourselves to have like the perfect healthiest relationship with our body and with food and with fitness and all of this, and it really isn't ever gonna be perfect. I don't think anything's ever perfect, and we ride different waves. Like there's different seasons of life, there's gonna be different weeks in our cycle, and I think learning to understand your body, learning to understand being a woman,
helps with that. And also too, just like understanding that every other girl kind of experiences it too. It's not just you. And it's like every girl has their own insecurities, and we all just have to learn how to accept it, but then too, like, not compare. And I think one thing that I've really gotten better at is like appreciating somebody else's like beauty or someone else's physique or someone else's hair. Like Emma has freaking great hair. I wish I had Emma's hair, but it's like
everyone thinks my hair is fake, you guys.
I don't like dislike, because I feel like jealousy, that could be like a reason for people not to like you. And I know like you've definitely dealt with that a lot. It's just like Emma's beautiful. Emma looks like a little Barbie girl. Like her body, her hair, like she's got a lot going for her, okay? But it's like that could be a thing that some girls like are jealous of and dislike you for. And I've experienced it with like just having a following and stuff in general. And it's like, you have to learn how to appreciate that about other people and not take it as like a hit to yourself. Like just because someone else is beautiful doesn't take away from your beauty.
We've talked about this a lot actually, because like, comparison is a thief of joy.
It is.
Once you start to compare anything of your life, whether it's money or appearance or anything, like you start to think everything in your life is wrong. Like, oh, she has good hair, my hair sucks. Yeah. Like that's just like immediately where your brain goes, and it doesn't need to be that big of an extreme. Like, oh, she has pretty hair, but like, so do I. Yeah. But like, oh, I have a nicer car and she doesn't. Like, you know what I mean? Like anything could be interchanged with that, but like it doesn't really at the end of the day matter. Right. Like, you can compare anything. You can't compare apples to oranges though. Like God made everybody have certain strength and like strengths and weaknesses. Like you can't compare your weakness to someone else's strength.
Exactly. I like that. I like that. Especially too, like with just, this is just for example, but like you have great hair, but like it doesn't mean Emma doesn't have something else that she's like insecure about or working on too. So it's like, don't just hate her because from the appearance she like, you know, you're jealous and envious of one specific trait and you're disregarding something that she's probably insecure about, which is also something to keep in mind. For example, Emma, to be like, oh, they're not acknowledging my one insecurity, like they're appreciating something else that God gifted me with, you know? And so just having those conversations with yourself, I feel like is important, and it's a work in progress, like we said, and it's never going to be perfect probably. So kind of take that pressure off yourself for assuming that it needs to be perfect all the time. It can always be improved upon, and I think there's always room to improve. I work on it every single day, but again, I'm in the fitness, wellness, health space. I still struggle. I'm probably always going to struggle throughout my life, throughout different periods, because like you said, we're always changing too,
we're
which
always
is hard.
Changing, and I honestly just think it's never going to be perfect. And you can't really strive for perfection with something that is never going to be, as long as you love yourself and people around you love you. Like I think that's all that really matters, you know? Exactly.
Okay, so moving on from that, somebody asked kind of more specifically on relationships with food. So I've talked about this a bit. Like this is for something with me in the fitness industry. It's something that's always been on my mind because I'm very knowledgeable in that realm. Like I know, I can look at a meal and know exactly how many calories are in it. I can pretty much know the macros just because I've been in this industry for so long. And I just have to learn to know myself and to have like boundaries with myself and understand like what's healthy, what's gonna potentially lead me to like an unhealthy viewpoint or relationship with something. So for me, it's always been like intuitive eating, and I just listen to my body. Balance is really important for me too. I don't restrict, but I don't overindulge too. And I think growing in our faith, which we'll get to in a second, but there's like a lot of correlations in the Bible of being like, don't overindulge, and like you're worth more than your body and your image and stuff like that. And I think that's also helped me, just growing in my faith has made me realize like how unimportant certain things are, and how important like your heart is, and like how you treat people, and like how much just joy you have in your life. And
it's not about outward appearance.
No, and I think the enemy really can like utilize that though, because they know how valued that is in our day and age, and how people, I don't know, I guess like how destructive it can be for someone's like mind, and like the thief of joy too, truly, like eating disorders and stuff like that can like truly just like tear people's lives up, you know, like it is what their world revolves around. And so focusing on God for me too is like, that's what I make my life focus around, and it takes more pressure off of those other things too.
I think the biggest thing is like people, that's their only focus. You know what I mean? Like I've been there to an extent. I played soccer. I burned 3,000 calories a day. It was my whole life. So I never really limited myself about what I could or couldn't eat, because I like genuinely needed the fuel. Like it was never a big thing for me. And then once I decided to walk away from soccer and I realized I wasn't going to be doing as much like physical activity as I was used to. I was like, it was always kind of in the back of my mind, like, oh, I can't do that because I don't burn this many calories a day anymore. And it's really not about that. And I think when I went through like my really bad phase before I found God, like with my anxiety, when I got anxiety, like I couldn't eat anything. Like it wasn't anything to do with an eating disorder. Like I just physically couldn't get myself to eat. Some people overeat, some people undereat.
Yeah.
And that was just me. And I think I got so used to what my body looked like when I wasn't giving it anything.
Yeah.
And that was like my biggest thing, was like, Emma, you're not going to look the way that you do when you don't eat anything compared to when you feel healthy and you can not be dizzy all the time. You know what I mean? Like, but I don't think it ever stemmed from an eating issue. It was definitely anxiety driven. And like, I love food. You love food. Like we can eat, y'all. Like we can eat.
We are.
And it's definitely been hard. Like over the last year, like you kind of think like, oh, I'm not going to look the way that I did. When I didn't eat anything. Yeah. And I also have done some modeling, and I think it's a good industry, but it's a very toxic. Yeah. It's a very toxic place to be. Like, you have to stay in a certain weight range, and your waist can't shrink or get any bigger. It's like, none of that matters. Literally none of it matters. I mean, at the end of the day, as long as you feel good in your own body and your jeans fit the way you want them to fit, like, you know what I mean? Like, as long as you treat people well and all that kind of stuff, like that's really all that matters at the end of the day.
I agree. I think once you just like take the pressure off appearance and focus more on other things that actually bring you joy, your life becomes a lot more joyful.
Perspective.
Yes, and your perspective shifts to those things rather than like how you look. Like that's so draining. Think about any time that you've been in I know all of us, I guess I don't want to speak for everyone, but I'm going to assume that most girls have probably went through a certain season of their life, whether it's coming out of a sport or whether it's just growing up, or I don't know. There's a lot of different variations and variables, but we've all probably went through a rough patch with eating in our bodies. But think how low energy, how awful you felt, how much joy just like wasn't in your life. You know, you like so much anxiety like can be caused from that too. Like that can be a cause of anxiety, and then it also can be a consequence of anxiety.
Exactly.
But I just like thinking back to those times, I may have looked leaner, but like I was not happy. I was not enjoying life, and like I want to enjoy life more than I want to look lean. And that's why I've never gotten into bodybuilding, because I just don't want to be miserable. I truly don't want to be on prep and be in a deficit and be miserable. Like I can be happy the way I look and the way I feel. And when you're around the right people and you have the right perspective and you have the right focus on things like God and friendships and like love and treating other people with love.
That was going to be like my next thing. Like if you're in a conversation with someone and you only are thinking like, oh, what do they think of me? Do they think I'm skinny? Do they think I look good right now? Like then you're not really present on the actual conversation itself. Like I've been there. I'm like, I wonder what they think about me. It's like, be present with the person. They'll understand that you're being present with them and having a good conversation with them when you are not thinking about yourself the entire time. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
When you just put that all aside and you're like, oh, well, who cares? The only thing that matters to me anymore really is like what the people around me that are closest to me that love me think about me and what God thinks about me. And at the end of the day, he sees everything, he knows everything, and he knows like your heart posture and everything. So I think that kind of stems from, or like goes up along with that really well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's hard though, like don't get me wrong. It's not definitely a process to get to that point, and like I still have my ups and downs, but I've had a lot more ups than downs recently because I've just learned to pour into other areas rather than like finding all of my confidence and all my worth in how I look. Yeah. And I used to do that. Yeah. And that brought me no joy. That brought me no happiness. That brought me no confidence. Even when I looked better, I was still self-conscious because I was always scared it was going to like leave me and I wasn't gonna be able to maintain that. Or like, that's just like, I don't know, a real, like think about your best friend. Does your relationship depend on how they look? No. So it's like, why do you think that should matter? Like with yourself, you know?
Exactly. You nailed it.
So, okay. And then somebody asked more specifically, I love how we're on question 1. This is going to be a long episode, y'all. So another question like off of that was, somebody asked more in the sense of regarding like back to the Bible, like a biblical correlation between like our relationship with food and body image. And actually today a follower of mine sent me a Bible verse and it kind of fits perfectly with this. And I've heard it before. So I'm going to share it with you guys because it's really good, and then we'll talk about it. But it's Luke 12:22 through 23, which says, "Therefore I tell you, don't worry about your life, what you will eat, or about the body, what you will wear. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothing. Literally in the Bible, it says life is more than food, your body is more than clothing. Like,
the Bible never fails, y'all.
No. I'm telling you, like, when you have a stress, you have an anxiety, like, it's there. Yesterday, really stressful day with work, opened my Bible. It was a story, like, exactly what I needed to hear. And it was literally just what I coincidentally had been, like, leading, like, that was the next chapter I had to read. But, like, that, I mean, there's really not much to tell other than, like, it says it like it is. Like, don't worry about your life, what you will eat, or about the body, what you will wear. For life is literally more than food and the body. And it's like, you have to trust in that. And it's a bit of like a sense of obedience, and you have to be obedient to that and trust in that and have faith in God and being like, okay. And then like start living as if that's the truth.
Yeah, I think.
Because it is. And then you will realize. And I think that's what's happened for us is like we've started to live like that. And now we're like walking proof, like we're a testimony to that. And it really is true. And it's all like a conversation you have to have with yourself and God. And one thing I do too, and I told you guys actually in, I think one of my recent podcasts, but like I started praying to God about these things. Like, God, help me become less focused on my physique. God, like, heal. When I pray, like, and I was like, please nourish this meal. Yeah. And I'm like, and please heal any like past, how do I word it? It's something about like, now I'm blanking because my prayer is like such a, you know me when I pray out loud. But it's like, I pray to God and I'm like, Lord, like, please nourish me with this food, but also like heal me from my past, like trauma with food. Because I haven't always had the like healthiest relationship with food. And like throughout doing that every single day, I eat a lot. Like I eat 3-4 meals a day. So I'm praying to God that same prayer 3 to 4 times a day. Like I don't miss that part in my prayer. And I've been doing it for 2 or 3 weeks. And guys, like, you have to bring things to light. And I think a lot of us also don't do that. We're ashamed of having an eating disorder. We're ashamed of having like an exercise disorder or even just saying we're insecure. You got to bring things to light for God to heal, you know?
Oh, exactly. And it's bringing it forth. Like, he already knows it, but he wants you to understand, not the issue or the problem, but he wants you to bring it to him, because then at that point he can fix it for you.
Yeah. And I mean? Guys, I'm telling you, like, there's really not much more I can say other than like I can testify for it being the truth. Like, I've never had a better relationship with food. I've never thought about food less in my life than I have the past month since praying about this. Like, that's crazy for me because it did revolve around that. And actually what influenced this was listening to a Girls Gone Bible podcast. And I get them too confused. Honestly, like, they're the same and they sound the same to me. So I don't even know which one it was. So one of them was talking about their relationship with food, and she was like, she was like, it took over her life, and she's like, I thought I could never get rid of this. Like, it was always going to be something in my life. And she goes, guys, prayers worked. And that's when I'm like, why have I never prayed about this? It had never dawned on me to like put it in a prayer. And she's like, guys, like, it's working, it's happening, and it's a process, it's a journey, it's not just overnight. Maybe
and that's anything,
for some people
though.
Like addiction, like she says, like she prayed about it and God like healed her overnight and she's never looked back. But like with eating and stuff, it's something you have to do, and you're tested with every single day. It's hard because you have to eat to live and to survive, so you have to face that.
I think the more you pray about something, the more you're tested with it too.
Yes,
I think like
absolutely.
I ask for patience, and then he tests me.
Yes.
Like, I'm like, oh Lord, I should have not prayed for this, because now I am getting put through it.
Yes.
But I think it's a real thing. And
absolutely. What
I was gonna say is, I think the enemy wants everything to be so materialistic. Yeah. I don't even know if it's just because we live in Scottsdale.
It's what the vibe is. Even from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, it was that way.
I don't know what's going on, but I think everything has to have a label. Yeah. Like, you have to have the coolest car, and you have to have the coolest outfit, and you have to have the best purse and whatever. Yeah. None of that matters. Like, just back to the verse, it's like, for life is more than food, or the body is more than clothing. Like, none of it matters at the end of the day. Like, I think the enemy wants us to focus so much on materialistic things that aren't real, but it's like, your body's healthy, it's moving, you woke up today, you're healthy, you can go on a run, you can go on a walk, you can eat healthy food, you can treat yourself to something that's sweet and nice, but like, don't overdo it. You don't have to have the nicest clothes, like, you're clothed, you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, we all are going to stress about stupid stuff, but it never has to be as deep as I think that it is like put out to be. Yeah. And I mean, if you think about it, it's like when we do overindulge, or we do put our worth in like a handbag or a car or something like that,
think how it actually makes us feel. Do we ever feel fulfilled? Do we ever feel joyful? Do we ever feel happy? No. Wonder why it's something that stems from not from God. Yeah. It's not coming from God. Yeah. Think about the things that make you feel amazing when you help someone, when you have a heart-to-heart conversation, when you do something that you're like, that was hard and you're proud of, but you like when I run and it sucks so bad, but I like am forced. It's kind of like when people fast and they have nothing other than to like put their faith into God and pray to God. That's how I feel when I run, because I'm like so miserable sometimes, like in the heat here.
Testing your
and it forces me to be like, God, I have nothing left. This is for like, please, like, and I have to be so like vulnerable to him and just like
surrender
to him. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. And so it's like those moments though, you walk away feeling so fulfilled, so happy, so joyful. You don't get that from materialistic things. And it's like, and it just makes sense. Like
it all makes sense.
Open your Bible and
Bible
it's like, wow.
never fails. It never fails.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the next. Let's move on to the next topic. So that was kind of regarding like body image and food and materialistic kind of things. Since we kind of just talked about living in Scottsdale, we'll talk about advice for moving to a new city without knowing anyone. So this is where Em and I are gonna have like different experiences. Yes. I moved here last year, kind of by choice. And I was already 20 as post-grad. And Emma, you want to kind of give them your little background?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Colorado. I lived there. I was born there. And I moved out here when I was 12. So I didn't really have much of a say. Not that I didn't want to move here, but I didn't really have much of a say. So my family and I kind of picked up and moved here. I was 12. I was going into 7th grade.
That's a hard time.
And if anyone remembers middle school, y'all, can we remember that for a minute? That's and then remember, or maybe not remember, but go back to walking into a brand new middle school and imagine you know nobody. Okay? Everyone has their elementary school friends. They all have their little cliques, you know. I don't know a soul, all right? I went to a private charter school in Colorado. I wore a uniform, tucked in shirt, you know, the whole thing.
The culture shock you had to.
Oh yeah. And I was a late bloomer too, so I was like a skinny little flat girl. Like I had nothing going for me, okay? Like I did not know what I was doing. And then I moved out here and went to a very public middle school. And the girls here were very advanced very early on. And when I tell you I'd never seen boobs and butt cheeks like I had never had before, and vapes and I don't even know, dab pens, I don't even know. And I was like, what on earth is going on?
Major culture shock.
I was culture shocked. Everyone in Colorado wears boots. They're pale all the time. Yeah. Their roots are grown out. Like, it's not a thing to, like, look super dolled up there.
Same in Iowa. That was even a culture shock for me as well. And I, like, kind of knew that going in. So I can't even imagine being 12.
Yeah.
And not really, like, having that.
And it never was a big thing for me. Like, I was, like, a tomboy growing up. Like, I didn't really care about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I moved out here and I was like, whoa, hold on a minute. Like, what is going on? And I think genuinely, I tell Jake this all the time, but I'm like, I don't want to raise our kids here because they're going to grow up with such a false reality of like, what it's like to just be a kid here. Yeah. Like, be 12 and wear your freaking sneakers. Like, you don't need to have, I bought $200 sandals when I moved here because I thought that I needed them to be cool. Okay. That's not a real thing. It doesn't need to be a real thing, but like, that's what I thought. It was scary. And so it never really got easier, if I'm going to be honest. High school was hard too. I mean, you grow and you meet your friends and whatever, but it's definitely never, I definitely would have had a different experience for sure if I stayed in Colorado, for sure. So I'll let you go and then we'll
cover my feet.
and then we'll elaborate more.
Yeah, no, but for like Emma, it was a culture shock, but for me as well, and I think for any of you guys listening, like moving somewhere is probably gonna be a culture shock if it's like out of state. Like every state is so different, and I think you have to kind of give yourself grace through that like transition period and that like adapting period, because everything's gonna be new, everything's gonna be a shock, everything you're gonna be like, whoa, like I'm not meant for here, like I don't fit in, like this isn't for me, like I can't maintain this, I can't keep up. Majority of the people here, I mean, we're like in Scottsdale, it's like, it's ritzy, it's fake boobs and like fake lips and everything, and Botox, like I won't lie, like I moved here and got my lips done, but like, and it was a little bit due to the fact that I started noticing every girl had lips done. I'm like, those look really good. And then I got reached out to by a med spa and they were like, hey, come in. And I was like, okay, so like,
you're like, done, boom, I'm here. Yeah.
So it's like, but then it's like, it is so normalized. Then I go back to Iowa and it's like, it's just different. It's so different.
My biggest thing is all my friends back in Colorado, they're like, girls on Instagram in Arizona post like no other. Like the editing, the filters, the amount of posts per day. Like all my friends in Colorado like have posts up from 2016 and like that's about it. Like it's just not a big thing. I don't really know why. Everything here is posted. Everything here is like, oh, I was here earlier and here's my link for this and here's that. I'm guilty of it too. I do it now. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but like it's different.
Yeah.
Like it's different. I was 12, 13. Like the world's so much different now than that many years ago, but I can't even imagine almost even being your age, moving here from having your entire life be in Iowa. Like that's
no
crazy.
One really put much of like an emphasis on like leaving the house. We'd leave in like our pajamas and our hair in a mess, and like you don't really think twice. Like you look like you just woke up, and like everyone like love Iowans, but like we all like with much respect. That's kind of how everyone looks out and about. You know, it's very just
y'all
like,
know each other. It's a homey vibe.
It's homey, and here it's like. Good Lord, you go to Walmart and people are
you're seeing
wearing
Justin Bieber, like
like it's crazy. Okay, it's crazy and it's different. So I guess if you're wanting to move, one, just like prepare for a bit of a culture shock, because you might not be coming to Scottsdale, but you're going to be going to a different town and there's going to be something else there. I'm sure any big city is going to be similar to this, like especially LA or like New York or
West
Tampa.
Coast for sure.
Like,
I guess
there's
anywhere.
a lot of big cities and they're all going to probably be like that. Even Austin, Texas, like everything's a bit more. And like when there's just more people, there's more money, there's more, there's 10 million med spas, not just 2 med spas. You know, there's going to be stuff like that. So understanding that there still is though like normal people and you can find those people. Like you don't have to like fit into a mold to move somewhere.
Yeah, not to freak you guys out.
No.
We didn't mean to freak you guys out.
But like with that being said though, like I think moving is like the best decision I've ever made for myself. Getting out of like your comfort zone and getting out of like your route of all you know. Like I've changed so much as a person because it's forced me to. I guys literally listened to last week's episode. I think it was last week's or 2 weeks ago. But like change
is good.
Forces you out of your comfort zone, and then it's going to kind of wake you up and make you realize things about yourself that you may not have noticed before, because it just like stirs up different scenarios in your life and it's going to teach you different things, and it's so healthy. And I think everyone should move at least one point in their life, whether it was like in middle school, but I think like in your 20s it's a great time to move because your life's already changing. Everyone, like most people here too are like transplants. Like a lot of people aren't born and raised in Arizona.
No, the natives here go crazy.
Most big cities like that, I think it's probably similar. So you meet a lot of people too that like can relate. Like most people we meet, it's like, oh, where are you from? It's not like, you know, it's and it's something to bond over, and then they can like understand too. Like being new, everyone was kind of like, oh, I remember when I first moved here, like have you tried this, like where did you find like to go to the gym and stuff, and it's very like comforting. So being able to find a community is really important as well.
That's something I've thought about, because I don't know, I love it here. It'll always be home here. Colorado will always be home to me too, but I've been thinking a lot recently, like if I'm called to go somewhere, if God's calling me to go somewhere, like I think I will go. Because like I said before, like I don't really want to raise a family here. Like just growing up here, there's just so many things that I just don't necessarily agree with. Not that that's a bad thing or I'm not going to get that somewhere else, but I think I just don't think this is where I want to be super, super long term. So I'm like, have been thinking about that. But Jake's like, this is my dream place, so I'm not moving for a while. So I'm like, all right, babe. I'm like, okay, well, if I'm called to go somewhere, maybe I'll go.
No, and the thing is too, like, I really like advise you guys listening, like, if you're called to go somewhere, you might not even know you're being called. Like, if you're not very Christian, you're not very faithful. If you're being called, if you feel like for some reason you're like, I don't know why I feel like I need to be in this city, go. Because I don't know what made me think I needed to come here, but I came here and I can't imagine my life without it. Like I would have never met my boyfriend. I would have never met Emma. I would have never found my church. I would have never been the person I am. And like, I don't want to be who I was back in Iowa. Not that that was a bad version of myself, but I am so much better.
You've talked about this before. You've outgrown the place.
I did, and that happens, and it's like,
that's normal.
Lean into that, accept it, and go for it, because you will figure it out. Like everyone always figures it out, and it's not like once you leave you can't go back.
Exactly.
So don't think it's permanent. You might be in a lease, you might have to be there for a certain amount of time, but like that's still temporary in the grand scheme of your life. It's still such a small percentage of your life.
And it'll teach you something.
It will. Whether it's good or bad, there's going to be a good lesson through it. There might be more suffering than, you know, compared to somebody else, but it's like, try it. Like, I could not recommend more to move and adventure out, whether that's like a 45 minutes down the road or a 4 to 5 hour flight. Like,
yeah, start small if you need to. Like, that was my biggest thing, because I stayed, well, I guess I don't really know my college issues, but I went to school in state, and then I walked away from soccer. So I still go to school, but I don't go, like, I'm not at a university, I'm at community college. But my biggest step was just like moving out, like, by myself. Like, I don't have a roommate, I live by myself. I had a dog. So it's like, any type of jump out of your comfort zone is going to help you in any way. Like, I know how to cook now. Not amazing, but like, I know how to cook. Like, I never would have been able to do that if I still lived at home with my mom. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she cooks everything for me.
And so easy to live at home.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think any type of step out of it is great. And I've always been like an independent person. I've wanted to be alone, and not people, like, some people don't want to be alone, and maybe that's the step, like, is just being alone. You can find a roommate, you can find people to do life with, you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to be alone. But I think any step out is going to be growth, and you're going to realize that it's going to teach you something, whether it's small or big. But I think with something like a change as big as that, like, you're going to learn something very significant that will help you throughout your rest of your life, I think.
Oh,
personally.
absolutely. No, like, if I would have never moved here, I would have never been like, I would have never found a church. I would have never been as involved in the church. My relationship with God would just be so different. Like, well, I mean, God has a plan, so I probably would have figured it out, hopefully, but like, I just love the way that it's like falling into place. And if I wouldn't have moved here, like,
well, even with the months I've known you, you've changed a lot.
Oh yeah. Like, since January, like, it's crazy how fast things can change too.
You don't know the exact point of when it happens. No. But then you wake up one day and you're like, oh.
You're like, whoa, how did we get here?
I don't do that anymore, and that's amazing. Like, I don't know, it's weird, but God does some crazy things, y'all.
He really does. But if you feel called to go somewhere, like, go. And then off of that, someone asked, like, how to find fellowship in a new home. So for me, it was important just to get plugged in areas and places that I enjoyed. So a gym. I found a gym I went to. I didn't honestly meet a lot of friends at the gym, and I was okay with that though, because that's who all of my friends online are. That's what their world revolves around, is the gym. That's who most of my friends back home are, is like fitness people. And so finding a community here that was like within my church was honestly what I needed, and I'm so grateful for it, because having that fellowship has called me up so much higher and has made me such a better Christian because of it. But it's like, Christians, like, those are the best people to meet. Like, they're so great. You know, obviously not every Christian's perfect, and I'm not saying every Christian you're going to meet is going to be this, like, perfect friendship, and you're going to be besties for the restie and, like, everything, but they're still great people. Most, like, their heart postures are good. They want what's best for you, like, and if not, too, I've noticed they'll, like, connect you with someone else.
I was like, just going to say that.
You'll get along with them really well.
You read my mind. We do this all the time. But I think finding groups to hang out with is definitely not something that's easy. I think you have to put yourself out there to a certain extent. I think only so many things are just going to fall in your lap. And I don't know if that sounds harsh or not, but I think at the end of the day, like, you kind of have to put yourself out there, and you want to go to places that you are going to, like, people you're going to want to be around. Like, when I first moved here, like, my soccer team was instantly my group of people, because that's who I spent the most time with, more than my family. Like, travel trips, every single practice, lift, film, like, that's who I was with. And then once I stopped playing soccer, I kind of had like a weird, my whole life revolves around soccer, I swear. But I had like a weird period where I was like, I'm not going to go hang out with people from high school. I don't really relate fully to my soccer friends anymore, and they're super busy. And so that's basically when I started volunteering at church and found like my people there. And I wouldn't say I hang out with them like all the time, but you know that, like, if you ever need anything, they're going to be there. Like, my people now are Chloe and Jake and Kyler. Like, that's our little group. Like, that's who we hang out with. But I wouldn't say fellowship doesn't even have to be like, oh, I have a huge group of friends. You know what I mean? It could be 3 people. It could be 2 people. But I think at the end of the day, it's go and find people where you'd want people to find you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
like,
good.
do you want people to find you at the bar? Because, like, friends that you meet at a bar are going to be different than friends that you meet at the gym or at church or at Bible study. You know what I mean? And that bar friends could be your thing. Personally, not my thing, but, like, it could be your thing. And I just think you should find people where you want people to find you.
Yeah.
That's so what I think.
And you got to
like,
put
the
yourself
biggest
in
thing.
those, like, situations to be found.
Yeah.
You know, because when we first moved here, like Jake and I, we didn't even know where to begin. And we were like, well, you know, Jake got invited to the church we go to now by a friend that we knew. And so it's like, lean into those opportunities. Don't turn those opportunities down. Even if you're a little nervous, even if you're a little scared, like meeting new friends felt like a first date. I feel like I was on a million first dates my first year here because I'm like, I know nobody, but it was so good for me because I'd never experienced that in my life. I grew up knowing the same people my entire life. Like, a same group, like same small, tight-knit group of people forever. And I honestly never even saw myself getting out of that until I randomly felt called to move here. And then I moved here and it taught me so much and it forced me into these situations, but it's helped me grow so much as a person. It's pulled me outside of my comfort zone, outside of my box. I'm a pretty shy person and now I don't feel like I'm as shy. Like I feel like I'm a lot more.
I've seen you change a lot with this too.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's like, I can like walk into a room full of people and not be overwhelmed with my anxiety and want to cry and go into a hole. Like literally Jake and I's route used to be like, okay, emergency, we'll go to the bathroom if we need to get out of this. Like I don't even think about that now because I'm like, I've grown so much and I handle it better. But again, like I was saying, you have to lean into those opportunities because there will be opportunities. Doors are going to open, whether it's a coworker at your new job invites you to go to like a young adults night like we go to, like that's I mean that is like the best place to meet people because it's all people your age, very similar people. You'll run into one person and then I swear it's like, oh, you remind me of this person. You'll get along with them, trust them,
they're all welcoming.
Go meet that
too.
person, give it a chance, give it a coffee date, give it a lunch, whatever, and then I promise you it will grow from there. But again too, it's like just understand like it's gonna feel like a first date and you're gonna have to like take those risks and be a little like nervous, but it like that's just part of it, but it's so worth it.
Yeah, I think, like we both have said, it's not going to be fun or super easy, but I think if you're called to go somewhere and you feel deep down that it's right, like this is your group or you should go to this because you're going to meet someone that's going to be your lifelong friend. I think the worry and the anxiety and like the nervousness comes from something is telling you not to go. Like the enemy's trying to get you to not connect with this person or not connect with that person because they know, like he knows the amount of good that's going to come from your life.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
No,
like
Jake and I literally talked about that before going into rally. We would be riddled with anxiety in the car. Like we'd be sitting there we going together. We had no obligation to talk to anyone, but we would still be so nervous. We'd almost not go in. And I'm like, because the enemy knew look at us now.
Good. Yeah.
That is my community. That's like my favorite place to go now. And
that was me too.
I can't imagine my life without it. So I'm like, imagine if I would have given in to my anxiety and not went.
That's what I'm saying.
So it's like where you feel a lot of anxiety and resistance, understand that could be the enemy.
Yeah, it's not always true,
you.
but I found that in my life.
I feel like though, like, because it's like, think about going, how much it'll benefit. Like if it's something good for you and you're getting anxiety about it, it's probably because it's good for you. Yeah. And the enemy doesn't want you to have that.
Exactly. You know, he wants nothing good for us. No. So, don't let him win. So don't let him win.
I have that like, what's that word I always forget?
Oh my gosh.
I literally have it in my notes from church. It's like literally a gift from God, and he gives us this. I always want to say discipleship, and that's not the word.
No, it starts with a D, though.
I know.
Oh my gosh, it was just on the tip of my tongue.
It's always on the tip of my tongue. Like, I think about this word a lot.
Discernment.
Boom! That is a gift from God, and you have to trust it, and you have to lean into it, because those are the moments where it's like, you'll have discernment, you won't even realize it's discernment. Oh, yeah. And before you're like strong in your faith, you're gonna have conviction, and you won't even know it's conviction, but you're just gonna feel guilty, and it's, the more you grow in your faith, you're gonna be like, oh, that's why I was like anxious and questioning what I was doing and whatever. Like I was being convicted and I just didn't even know it.
And then once you listen to it, your life gets a whole 180.
Yes. And you're
like, oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus.
Okay, that was a good leeway into our next topic, which is how to date in your 20s. Okay, let me like get repositioned.
You're like, let me set up
our stuff. I've talked a lot about dating on here, but not really as much recently, I feel like. And so this would be good. So lots of you had questions. Like, honestly, let me grab a drink before I do this.
She said, let me prepare. Hold on. This is a good one. You're right.
Yeah, there's a lot of good questions on this too. We have like 4 questions under this that all fit into this. topic. Okay, so how to date in your 20s, honestly. Well, let's just answer that first. It's like a broad thing. Well, actually, I don't even know where to begin on that.
How to date in your 20s? Let me think.
Like,
I feel like nothing in your 20s is easy.
no.
I just turned 20, but I feel like I've been 20 for a while.
Yeah. You seem older than 20.
Yeah. Nothing is really easy. No. Nobody's the same. And I think us talking as women, it's hard to date because men are not as mature as women are. We have two pretty mature men in our life.
And but like it's funny because like my boyfriend Kyler and Jake, my little brother, her boyfriend, we're like very connected. But like there's a 5-year gap between Kyler and you, and there's a 4-year gap between Kyler and Jake, and then Kyler and I are 2 years apart. But so it's like interesting to see because some of the things, like when we're having conversations about our own relationships, it's like you have to understand maturity is a thing, and like you have to give people grace and time to mature, and it's a process. Because I think back to myself at 20, and good Lord, like I was way behind where you guys were, and honestly I was a pretty advanced 20-year-old. Like I was living with a boyfriend at 20. That's crazy. Oh my Lord, things have changed.
Things have changed.
But
I think maturity has a big thing to do with it.
A big thing, and you have to be able to read that level before getting into a relationship. Don't date a 20-year-old who acts 18.
Don't do that.
Because they're out there.
Don't do that. Just don't. Yeah. I think also is knowing the difference. We've talked about this a lot. Is knowing that women are so much different than men.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
I just opened up a whole bat of.
You did. You just opened up a whole 10-minute conversation, probably.
I love it.
But men and women are so different, and I think we forget that when we're dating. We forget that. We forget that all the time. That's honestly a big lesson that both of us have learned.
We check ourselves.
It's because we'll be talking, and I'm like, yeah, and you're like, yeah, and we're like, wait, why don't they get that? Like, what the heck? And then we start getting ourselves like all worked up, and then
they're gonna watch this and be like, oh,
yeah, they're like, oh crap. But then it's like we are forgetting that they are just wired different. They're going to think different. They're going to act different. They're going to respond different. They're not going to think the way we think. So when we think they're not doing something for us intentionally, you know, or we assume that they know something, or we don't get why they have to go do this one thing, they're just wired different. Their thoughts are going different directions. They have different perspectives. They like digest information differently. Like,
but how boring would life be if we were wired the same?
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's why we are supposed to be different. Yeah. And that's why there are differences, big differences between the two. I think that part of being with somebody is understanding why they think a certain way and why we think a certain way. Yeah. And I think you can kind of tell if people are right for you in that sense. Like if you can figure that out, especially early on.
If you want to figure that out.
If you want to figure that out,
you know, like, because that's how I feel like that's how we knew, is like when something confusing, something hard, something difficult comes up and you have to work through it. When you like want to sit there and you want to figure it out and you want to work through it and you want to move past it and like grow together because of it, like that's how you know. That's a question like somewhere in here is like how to know, and that's one way I know is like otherwise I would just, you don't, like, we're dating, we're not married, we're not
you don't have to do that, like you don't have the covenant of marriage yet.
So I feel like when you have that desire to want to work through stuff and get to know them and understand them, it's a good sign that like it's a healthy, good relationship and you're meant to be in it, maybe.
Yes. I think it's also hard because no relationships are the same.
Right. There's not like a rule book.
Yeah, like, there's no like specific way to date in your 20s. Like there's no right or wrong answer. And everybody's different and everyone looks for different things and has different types and has different wants and needs. And I don't know, like I think you just have to be very on the same page with the people you're with. Like if you're dating someone for a year and they want to be engaged after a year and the other person doesn't, like that's going to be a significant difference. I think like it could be with anything. It could be with wanting to live together, wanting to not, wanting to live in this state, wanting to not. Like it could be anything, but I think it has to be worth your time almost. Like you have to know that you're going to be compatible with that person. which I think is different than like high school relationships. You're like, oh, this is fun. He goes to my school, like da 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 da. He's cute, whatever. You know, like,
and
it's
life
different.
Was easier in high school.
Oh yeah,
like,
your mom dropped you off at school. Like,
you didn't have any like responsibilities really, maybe other than like a sport that you were in, or you know, like school, homework. Like life was, I'm sure it felt stressful in the time, but like compared to now, there's so many other things we have to navigate and prioritize and put our time towards, and it makes dating so much harder because there's just that many more layers to it. And so I think going into relationships too, it reminded me when you were talking, is like, you have to get to know yourself too, because you have to get to know what you prefer before getting into a relationship, you know, where you have to quickly learn like, oh, do I want to live with someone? Do I not? Do I want to stay here? Do I not? Do I want kids? Do I not? Like,
yeah,
you have to know this about yourself, because it's easy to kind of mold into the person that you date if you don't. And then you're not going to be happy because you're going to be living for them and not yourself.
Exactly. I think also your 20s, everyone's like, oh, this is your time to be selfish. This is your time to do things for you and build your business and build your name, whatever. But I also think, like I said before, you can't compare somebody's relationship to somebody else's. Like, everybody's going to have different goals at different times. I'm 20. Most of the kids I know are at ASU, like at school, having very college type relationships, which is fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But like, Jake and I have a very different type of relationship than I would say most 20 and 21 year olds.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know what I mean? So it's like, everything is different, and I can't compare my relationship to one of my friends at ASU. Like, it's never going to be comparable, and I never will try to compare it. So I think it's just knowing that if you want to sacrifice certain things for the person you're with, or what you want to sacrifice and what you don't, what you agree with and what you don't. And I think at the end of the day, it comes down to like that.
Understanding your boundaries and your preferences, and then like finding someone who aligns with those. And if they don't, like, that's okay. They're just not meant for you, because like, sacrifice is part of a relationship, but you shouldn't have to sacrifice everything.
Exactly.
Like, God wants the relationship to be healthy and happy and thriving. And if there's certain things you have to sacrifice that aren't building you to be happy and joyful and thriving and whatever, then
they're not your person.
No. Yeah.
Period.
Simple
That's
as
it.
that. So first up question is how to have faith that there's still good guys out there. You know what I like to say when people say this is, if you're not finding them, you're looking in the wrong
places.
Area. So
agreed.
If you're being like, you guys, that's how I felt when I was looking on Hinge for a boyfriend. I'm like, there are no good guys out here. They all just want to like just be dumb, immature. Like, it just wasn't what I wanted. I'm like, well, maybe because I was looking on Hinge for a boyfriend.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the friendship thing. Like, you can find pretty much anybody at a bar. You could find anybody in any type of situation like that. I mean, why else are you really there? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me unless you want to drink or go home with somebody. Like, it's they kind of go hand in hand. But I think the way we do know that there are still good guys out there is because we do have pretty good boyfriends.
Yeah.
Like, we can attest to the good men.
Yeah. But like, we met pretty much both of our boyfriends in church.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's where we met Jake, and that's where Kyler and I like actually met for the first time, was at church together. And that's where a lot of our relationship stemmed, was the time we spent together at church or talking about our faith and stuff like that.
Yeah. And so I think it all comes down to where you're looking.
Yeah. Because the people that are there are going to be looking for people like that, and you have to also be that person, like yourself.
Yeah, you can't.
You know?
Yeah, you can't put on a front.
You can't like expect to meet someone at a level you're not at yourself.
Period.
So if you have all these expectations for a man, check yourself too, because that's something I had to be reminded of. Like, Kyler would have never dated me a year ago. No, no, probably not. 2 years ago, definitely no. But like a year ago, maybe. But like, that's why we didn't date then, because I don't think I was ready for that.
But that's the beautiful thing about life.
Yeah, trusting God's timing, because he will deliver the man too at the right time. And that actually goes right into another question. It says, how to know someone's purpose in your life. So this is actually, I like this, because I always say everyone in your life serves a purpose.
Like, reason, a season, or a lifetime is what I like to say.
Yes, and that's so true. And the thing is, sometimes I feel like you might not know until the end of it, and you just will have peace and you'll have closure when that relationship, when that friendship, whatever it is, comes to an end. You'll have an understanding, and you'll have peace. Like, God gives you peace.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? Like, that's a gift from him, and it's true, because any relationship that has been, like, served me, like I say, my ex, we dated for a long time, but then it just didn't work out. We were going different directions. I had peace with the end of the relationship, and I think he did too now, because it's like we served each other to our maximum potential. And then it was like, he kept me out of so much trouble in high school, and he like really like inspired me to do certain things in business and stuff like that, and got me like on the right track, and was such a good support for me. But then I got to the point where I was going a different direction, he was going a different direction. I needed other support in other areas, and he did too, and we couldn't do that for each other anymore. You know, like, he needed other things from me that I couldn't give. Like, I couldn't sacrifice that. And
Yeah. And you're glad you didn't now.
right, because I wouldn't be where I am today. And so it's like, trust in those like gut feelings, and trust in those times. Like, you'll just feel it. I don't know. Like,
Sorry, there's a helicopter out there, and you see that?
yeah. Wait, is it landing?
I don't know. There's 2 of them.
Wait, there's another one?
Yes, you see it?
No.
It went behind that building over there.
I saw
gosh.
one of them, but
I knew I was gonna get distracted by something
there's
out
too
there.
much going out that window.
Oh, there's another one.
What's going on?
I don't know. They look like military helicopters.
Oh my gosh, imagine there was like someone out there and they were like helicoptering to like arrest them. That happened
This
in
is
Phoenix
crazy.
one time, and I was so scared. We're not in Phoenix though, so hopefully that's not going on.
God bless. God bless.
But
This one's kind of hard to talk about for me. I feel like I just have really good gut feelings about
Yeah.
people. Like, and
well,
then they
again,
kind of
it's
just magically,
discernment, and
yeah,
it's like, God, that's a gift from God, and you
Yeah.
have to trust that.
yeah. I think, you outgrow people sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes people outgrow you. And I think with me, like, I'm a horrible person with confrontation. So, like, if I had ever had, like, an issue with a friend or anything, like, I will not be one to bring it up. Like, absolutely not. And I think God knew that and kind of just magically had them disappear from my life. And I think I'm very grateful for that, because he knew that I wasn't going to remove them because I was too scared to have a argument or something. You know what I mean? And so they would kind of just
Drift.
They'd just drift. Yeah. And I think I was kind of always like upset about it. Like, oh, I wonder why, or oh, whatever. And then looking back, I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if I was still friends with them, or if I still was with them, you know what I mean? Like, you look back and you're like, oh, thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
Like, he knew what he was doing,
Again,
even if it
like,
didn't make sense.
In the moment, it probably won't make sense. If
And
it's a
it's-
breakup, if it's someone moving and you're like, why, like, what's going on? I wasn't ready for that. It's like, you have to trust in him, and it will make sense eventually.
Yeah. What's that Bible verse? You do not know now, but later you will understand. I think it's like John 13:7.
That's one thing
Something
I'm
like
working
that.
on.
7.
I'm working on the verse.
13:7, I think. Don't quote me on that, but maybe.
I like that though. Yeah,
But
that's so true.
You never know right away. And
Yeah.
I tell people this all the time. I'm like, you might not know for a year. You might not know for 2 years.
Yeah.
You might not know for 10 years down the road, but I think you will eventually someday know, be like, oh,
Yeah,
this
you'll
is
have
why
that.
the dots are connecting now. Like, duh, light bulb
Absolutely.
moment. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah. And then someone asked about patience regarding relationships. One, having patience to like meet your person in general. And then another person asked something similar, but it was a bit different. And they were like, patience and waiting to know if they're the one. So this is actually good, because I feel like I
You wanna
can,
start?
I can like kind of, I've experienced both of these. One, I was single for 2 years and I was impatient, and God was not giving me my person because I was not ready. And when you're impatient, you start acting out. You start acting in ways that you shouldn't be. Patience, like, you're meant to be patient. God designed us, like, he tests our patience all the time. Like, we need to learn to be patient. And the second we're not, it's not going to do us any good. Like, I just think like patience is a virtue, and you have to learn to okay, the enemy's distracting me right now from trying to say this.
Yeah, for real.
Loud bang in an airplane, so that means this is good. So listen in, okay? Because I'm gonna get refocused. But like, you have like patience. One, I think patience makes things even better when like you do receive them, because it's like you had to wait for it. Kind of.
Yeah.
It makes you appreciate it differently.
Yeah.
I guess, Emma, what do you have to say about like having patience to wait for the one?
This is kind of a tough one for me too. I think you can always kind of tell when someone's not right for you, whether you want to accept it or not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think our world is so like no one wants to be alone anymore. I don't really know what.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, I just think everyone's like, oh, I always have to have someone around or someone to Snapchat or someone to text. And I think, I mean, I've been guilty of it.
Yeah. Oh, same.
When I was like 18. Like, we've been there. We've been there. So we understand it.
22.
But I think, kind of just having to sit and have a moment where you're like, okay, maybe this just isn't what God wants for me right now. And like, this is like my perspective now. My perspective 2 years ago was way different.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess I don't really have a ton of advice for that one, but I think once you know, you know.
Yeah,
like that kind of goes into like how you know if they're the right person for you or not. I think all the puzzle pieces will just kind of align
all together. Yeah.
And again, that's really not much advice. I think it's just like, you'll just know.
Yeah. I just kind of thought of something though. I think patience too is like a test for our faith and obedience in God. And it's him being like, do you trust me? And not being patient is being like, God, I don't trust you. Like, I'm getting antsy. Like, it's not coming.
That just
but it's like, it's forcing you to be obedient to him and be faithful and trust and believe in him and believe in his plan for you. Because if you're being impatient, it's kind of like anxiety and worry. It's like, if you're not, if you have those feelings, it's you not trusting in his plan. And I know it's so hard because I still fall victim to anxiety and I still fall victim to being impatient and stuff, but it's understanding, like, in those moments now I have that understanding. And so I'm like, okay, Chloe, like, breathe. And then know that God intended for that to happen.
Yeah.
Like, God didn't, it's kind of like the, what's it called? The spilled coffee theory or something like that. But like, if you spill your coffee and you're late to work, you're meant to be late to work. Like, you probably avoided like a car accident or you avoided something. And I think
this entire episode is just perspective. Like, if I could think of one word, try and change your perspective.
Yeah.
But what was I gonna say? One of my favorite things they talk about at our church was like the story in the Bible where they're out on the water and there's a storm and God or Jesus is sleeping and they're like, wake up, wake up, wake up, because they're in the middle of a storm. And he wakes up and not the first thing he does, like when he wakes up, the first thing he doesn't do is like freak out. He looks at them and he goes, you have little faith. Like, why did you think that I wasn't going to be there exactly when you needed me to be there? And that like really stuck with me. I think we probably talked about this like 6 months ago at church. And it's still like,
I remember it now that you're saying this.
Yeah, because it's like, that's what he's thinking up there when you're sitting down, you're worrying and you're like freaking out. Where's my person? Where's my person? Where's this? Where's my, what's my next job going to be? You know what I mean?
He's like, only if you know.
And if you like wake him up and he's like, you have little faith. Like, that's the first thing he had to say. Like, he was not stressed at all. He was not worried at all. He was just like, why did you have no faith in me?
Yeah.
And I think it just all comes back to the point of like, you just have to know he's got a plan. Like, it's hard in the moment. It's not fun. It's not easy. But I think having the right people around you too to check you. Yeah. Like, Jake will do to me all the time. He's like, do you believe in God? Like, why are you stressing about this? Like, he'll be so straight up honest about it.
Having those people in your life are so important.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing that's kept me like in check with it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. No, that's so good. I love that because it's true. It's like, why do you not trust him? And then it's like, dang, like, it just makes you think.
Yeah.
It really does make you think.
No, it really does. Perspective.
And then going on to that, so the other part of the question was like how to have patience and waiting to know if they're the one. One thing me and Kyler took our relationship very slow, and that was different for me, and that was hard for me. Like, I struggled through that because I'd never experienced that. I started dating my like last boyfriend after like 2 weeks. Like, we started dating super quick, and he always prefaced like fast things crash hard, and like it's okay to take it slow. And if they're your person, if they're your person, like, they're not gonna leave. Like, that waiting season and that period of like slowness and stillness, if they're right and meant for you, like, what's the difference? You know, like, you're gonna be with them in the long run, and if it's meant to work out, it will. So like, trust in that. And again, it kind of comes back to perspective and like trusting God and being like, if this is my person, he's not going to go anywhere. Yeah. So like, why rush it? There's literally no reason to rush it.
Dating isn't a label. It's a process to walk through. And
I wouldn't drop my mic. That will be really loud.
It's a process. Like, it's not easy. Yeah. And some parts of it aren't fun. Sitting down having a hard conversation isn't fun. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? we've both struggled with talking about our emotions. And if the boys have called us out on anything, it's definitely been that, because we are not very good at that. But we're working on it, and we've gotten a lot better, so slay.
Yay. Improving.
Improvement, yay. But it's definitely a process to walk through. It's not like, oh, we're dating, so you're stuck with me. It's a process. Like, you know what I mean? You don't have the label of marriage. You don't have a wedding ring on your finger. You know what I mean? Like, you have to work out things in order for it to, at the end of the day, work. Yeah.
I view it as like a step, like a stairs or something, and each thing is like a step getting you closer to that. But like, you can't hop on an elevator in a relationship and expect it to be like perfect.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, and we talked about this the other day. You were like, I couldn't give you this advice if I hadn't just gone through it.
Yeah.
And I think, again, back to like who you hang out with and the people you surround yourself with can help you with so much, because it's like, I've gone through something that she hasn't, and she's gone through things that I haven't, but like, we have good advice for each other, whether it's relationships or not. But like, and we're both always kind of the ones that like keep our relationships very to ourselves. Like, like, no one really knows our outside business, like people that at church or whatever. But I think as long as you have someone that, you know, like, the boys definitely go to each other with certain types of advice, and like, we go to each other, and it's not like anything bad. I just think as long as you know that person is going to help you with like the right mindset and the right
heart posture.
Yep, that's the word I was looking for. And
see how we like help each other out.
You know that you're going to have what you need to have to like go into a conversation that's hard, or you know what I mean? Like, I think it all kind of makes sense. But
I just think there's no reason to rush. I think rushing, like, it takes away from like the lessons to be learned and the process of everything. Like, rushing is like really not trusting God's timing, because I don't think you should have to rush anything. If you like move quickly, that's one thing, but rushing intentionally is different to me, and maybe that's just me, but I think it's like, our flesh wants to rush. Our flesh wants to get to marriage. Our flesh wants to like be here, and here, and be doing all these things in advance. But it's like, good things take time. And honestly, like, time does a lot, because it like allows you to get to know, like, there's so much to get to know about a person. There is so much. And like,
you learn something new every day.
You do. And the thing is, though, it takes every day to learn another thing and another thing. And so it's like, you can't just like know someone right away. And I think a lot of the things like lust and you can have like chemistry with people, but that's like, I can have chemistry with a lot of people, but I'm not gonna like have like a soul connection. Like, I'm not gonna be in love with everyone. Like, that's like the 1 in a million, you know what I'm saying? So being able to like decipher the difference between like lust and the difference between chemistry and then actually like meeting your person, in my opinion, if you're not being patient and you're rushing, you're there's no way to be able to decipher that, because it's not giving it the relationship enough time to like process that. Like, you have to experience, I don't know, me and Kyler just had to experience so many different things, like getting to know each other, because we came from 2 different worlds when we met. Like, none of his friends knew me. I knew nothing about him. Like, our childhoods, we were raised differently. Like, so much was different. So it was like a lot to learn. Yeah. And it's like, you can't expect to take the final exam in school without studying and learning like the content. Yeah. So it's like the same. I view relationships like that. And it's like, give it time, give yourself like just grace and patience with the person, and understand that like it will be worth it to wait. Yeah. I don't know. I just like really experienced like patience, because Kyler and I took like 4 or 5 months to date, and it was hard because I didn't understand it, but now I do. And it's like, again, I can testify and being like, it was worth it for us. And again, like, some relationships you'll learn quicker, you know?
It goes back to like, nobody's the same.
No. And you can't compare.
Yeah. You can't compare anything. But I think, like I said, it's a process. Yeah. Nothing is sunshine, rainbows, and butterflies all the time. Yeah. Like, back to the whole social media thing. Like, I could post something, everyone thinks everything's amazing, and it's
everyone
quite
has
frankly not. You know
I can tell you, I can promise you, no relationship's perfect.
Exactly.
No couple isn't arguing every now and then, or having like difficulties and miscommunication and issues and whatever. Like, we just have to like get that out of our mind. So when bad things happen, or like difficult things happen in a relationship, you don't just fold in and give up. Be like, okay, this is like, you gotta work through it. You know,
love never fails. That's what the Bible says.
Period. Y'all. One last thing about relationships. So I guess someone asked like boundaries as a Christian couple. Honestly, it's simple. Just like
Talk about it.
And definitely talk about it right off the start.
That's what I was going to say earlier.
Don't wait until it comes up and then you have to talk about it. Talk about it so it doesn't even have to come up. So say you're agreeing to not have sex. Don't wait until it gets to a moment where it's like, whoa, I don't do that. And then it's like, whoa. And everyone's confused and it's awkward and stressful. Lay down the rules at the beginning and don't let yourself get to that point.
Yeah.
And have those boundaries for yourself know what your boundaries are before getting into a relationship. Don't figure them out once you're in the relationship, because then they're not going to be your boundaries. They're going to be boundaries that you think fit the relationship, and it's going to be more out of your flesh than your soul. And
this comes with experience too. I've learned a lot of things from my past relationships where I'm like, I know that this is not going to happen or this will happen. Yeah. And I think also seeing my parents go through a divorce and seeing some really interesting things with my family, and just not a very good marriage at some points. I think you just know certain things going into it. Here are my boundaries with this. Here are my boundaries with this. And a lot of them have changed since being in a walk with God too. There's just things that are going to change. It's a given. Not because I necessarily wanted them to, just because that's how much my heart has softened and changed. Don't
compare your boundaries to somebody else's unless it's someone you look up to maybe, but just because your friends are doing something doesn't mean it's okay for you to do it. I know that sounds like a parent, but that's just, I feel
if your friend jumped off a bridge, would you?
Right? But it's
so annoying.
But I don't know. I feel you can't create boundaries based on the people around you. It's really a you thing. And for me, it's I look to the Bible now, and that's kind of how I create. For me, I just abide by the Bible, because what Kyler and I say is we want to have the most highly favored and blessed relationship we possibly can. And the way to do that and ensure that is to follow the word of God. Yeah. And so that's how we've created a lot of our boundaries is or then we think would our pastor do that?
Would you bring it to the altar, is what Jake would like to say.
Yeah, and so it's that is kind of how I view boundaries, honestly.
Yeah, and I don't think God intended things for us to not have fun. I think a lot of people that aren't Christian look at it, they're oh, well, Christians don't have fun, you guys don't drink, you guys don't party, you don't have sex. It's all of that's for a reason. Yeah. I wish I could explain it to you from my POV 2 years ago to my POV now.
I know.
And you'll never understand it until you've had that change in your mindset.
Yes.
But the reason it says not to have sex until you're married is because you are literally soul tied and bonded to that person, and you cannot get rid of it.
Yeah.
The only thing that can get rid of it is literally God.
Yeah.
And so that's why, big reason why I got baptized and why a lot of people get baptized. Mm-hmm. Not for that reason exactly, but part of the reason.
Yeah.
But it's it's not because he doesn't want you to have fun in that way. It's not for that at all. It's because it's supposed to be for two people that become one flesh when you're married.
Yes.
It's not supposed to be for
fun.
Yeah.
For fun to do with everybody. No.
Yeah.
It's not.
My perspective has changed a lot, but I think as long as you kind of just have, they're not rules, but Jake and I have a notebook, and we wrote down things this is his non-negotiable list and this is my non-negotiable list, and we'll go over it every couple months and be has this changed, has this changed, you know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily have to be with big things like having sex or whatever, but it could be.
Yeah.
So it could be with anything small, I don't even know, I can't think of an example.
Just setting boundaries and communicating them and checking in is really important in a relationship for sure.
Communication.
But kind of what you were talking, actually no, that's a question we'll get to. It's a question down here about the partying thing. I was going to talk more about that, but we can just get to that
in a couple minutes.
Stay tuned. This next one is asking advice on how to become more confident. I think for me, I seeked confidence in the wrong things for so long until I found God, and then it was it just kind of made more sense, and it softens your heart and it changes your heart posture, and you start to view everything a lot different. So it's I don't idolize and I don't value things the way I used to. So it's I don't value that in my own life either. I used to think people with nice cars or a lot of following, or if they were beautiful, I'll be honest, I used to value that, and I used to envy them because I was
dang, they have everything that I don't have.
I would be confident if I had that. And I grew a following, guys. I became more successful in my career. I got my dream car. Like, I got those things, and I can confidently tell you it did not change my confidence one bit. And if you find confidence in that, it's like you're lacking major insecurities in other areas or in that specific area, and it's not going to fill that void. Like, it's not.
Which is okay to have that, but you can't let it control your life.
No.
I think if I could look back when I was, like, the least confident would be, it would be, like, who I would hang out around.
Yeah.
Like, if I was with, like, the cool girls at school, like, I felt like I was not cool enough. You know what I mean? Like, popularity or whatever, like, oh, I'm not as popular as them. And, like, I could tell a difference in myself when I would walk into class in high school when I felt like I was the most well-known in that class.
Yeah.
Everyone knows Emma. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Versus a class where there was people that had that over me.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, well, I'm less confident because she's cooler.
Yeah.
Which is so dumb. Like, now looking back, I'm like, why did I ever care?
I know.
And I think it all kind of stems about, like, I think mine stemmed from what I thought people thought about me.
Yeah.
Like, what do they think about me? Do they think I'm weird? Do they think I'm cool? Like, do they think I'm good at my sport? Do they think I suck? Like, that's kind of where mine stemmed from, where I was like, oh, I don't feel confident because I know so-and-so thinks this about me.
Yeah, that's so true.
You know? And mine was never like I don't think like a personal issue. Because now that I just don't really care what people think and I only really care about what God thinks, it really changes. Like, I was, like, scared to, like, post things in high school, like, post on TikTok, post on whatever. And now, like, I just don't care because like it's not their TikTok, it's mine. I can post whatever I want on it, and if they're gonna judge me, then I don't really care. I think it was almost like a fear of being judged too. And I think everybody has that in high school. It's like a very known thing to have.
Oh, for sure.
But I think that's where mine stemmed from, and I don't really have it anymore because I hang out with people that boost my confidence, and it's just not really as big of an issue anymore. But I think it kind of is your environment, A, and, like, B, who you're with. I don't know. Everyone has different confidence issues for different reasons. But that was kind of, like, my personal experience, so.
No, I think that's so true, though, because a lot of it, I think, is a reflection of what you assume others think. Like, if you walk into a room and it's like, oh, everyone thinks I'm the prettiest in here, you're going to be confident. But if you walk into a room where it's like, oh, everyone thinks that she's the prettiest, you're not going to feel confident. And so it's learning to not, one, care, because that shouldn't matter, and two, like, truly, I guess, looking more inward on yourself and just doing things that make you feel, I don't know, it's just like, I don't even know how to explain it because you kind of said it well.
Yeah.
But
I think everyone's going to deal with confidence in different things. It's not that I don't have that anymore, but it's just like, it's just not as relevant to me because I just really don't care. Like, if that could sum it up, I'm just like, I know who I am, and I know my heart, and I know that God knows that, and that's really all that matters to me. But I think confidence is a lot of, like, it's not like a front, but it's kind of like you just have to, it comes with experience too. Like, you're going to be confident in something that you know you're good at. Like, if it's your first time ever playing a sport, you're going to be like, oh, I'm not that confident in this because I don't know how to play. You know, like, I think it comes with experience and doing it. Practice makes perfect. Duh. I mean, and so I think that that's kind of also where mine stemmed from, like, with sports too. But everyone's is different. It could be looks, it could be materialistic things, it could be appearance, it could be personality, it could be anything. But I think once you know the root of the issue, you can fix it. That's, like, my biggest piece of advice if you have any confidence issues. I
like that. We'll just leave it there because that was really good.
Period.
Okay, this is where it's going to get
get juicy.
Distinguishing things sent from God versus our fleshly desires. The way I would say I view this is, like, a lot of the stuff that comes from flesh is pleasure based or pleasure like focused. So if it's giving you a lot of, like, pleasure, like flesh, like, there's a difference between, like, the pleasure you feel from God and then the pleasure you feel from like other things, I guess. But But to know if it's sent from God and like a fleshly desire, it's one, you can also too kind of like look to the word and be like,
yeah, it normally
what's the Bible say
aligns.
about this?
This one's kind of interesting to talk about. I think us as humans, we have temptations to do lots of things. Like, not back to the whole sex topic, but kind of, for like talking about it. Like, your body was made to reproduce. The woman's body was made to bring more life into the world. Like, that is just what our bodies are meant to do. We have certain weeks throughout the month where our bodies are more likely to produce something than not, you know? And so that is like the whole reason of the human, what's the word? Human,
like makeup?
Human, like human makeup, human nature. And same with men, like, but at the end of the day, it's about fighting the temptation. And it might not even be that. It could be with nicotine. It could be with weed. It could be with, like, having a shopping addiction. It could be literally with anything. It could be with eating too much. It's kind of just, like, what your body wants over, like, what your mind knows is right. You know? Like... oh, I really want to eat a third cookie, but should I? Probably not. Like,
truly,
it's just
though,
kind of like...
It's like every time you can think back and be like, what would the Bible say about this? And the more you get into the Word, the more you, like, grow your relationship with God, the easier it is to decipher. You know? Like, you'll
Things from God don't come with regret. They come with peace. Like, anything that you regret, you're most likely like, ooh. You know? Like, that was not a good idea.
The reason, like... temptation, like, we're not supposed to lean into that. It's like a form of God's protection because he knows the repercussions of, like, if you do
drink and you wake up the next day and you feel like crap, like, I wonder why.
Like, you were, like, poisoning your body, and, like, that isn't good. Like, your body's a temple. God designed it, you know?
And
like,
the
you
thing is, like, drinking technically isn't a sin. Being drunk is a sin because it allows you to not be sober-minded. And that is when bad things tend to creep in your mind, and that's what he doesn't want. Like, he doesn't not want you to have fun. He's protecting you from literally the enemy coming into your mind. Like,
and like the sex
that
thing,
is it.
It's protecting you from a soul tie. It's protecting
you from a soul tie and getting your heart broken if that person does break up with you, because you are a lot more likely to be attached to that person if that does happen. And the only thing that can break that, like, covenant bond is literally God, the Holy Spirit. Like, it is so real. But I think anything that comes from God is going to be peaceful. It's not going to confuse you. It's not going to make you regret anything. And I think you won't really know it. I mean, you might know it right away, but, like, you might not.
Sometimes you have to pray about things. Like, sometimes you have to sit there, like I said, like, with my prayer before I eat every day. I'm like, I pray for healing continually because it's something that is going to take time. And it's like, if you're confused on something, and people are like, pray about it, but, like, literally talk to God about it. And then soon you'll start having these moments where you become aware, or your heart posture changes, or your perspective just randomly changes one day, or something will just, like, God will just, like, speak to you. And it's, for me, it's like when I just have those random thoughts, and I'm like, where did that come from? Like, how did I think, what? And I'm like, oh, like, thanks, man. Like, I needed that. I've been praying for that.
And I don't think there's, like, an exact moment. I just remember being at church one night, and I was just looking around, and I was like, this place has literally changed my life. Like, I don't remember exactly when I changed, or exactly when my mind decided to think the things that it does now. Or my heart, or whatever. But it wasn't an overnight thing. And what did Travis talk about? He was like, it happens so gradually. Good or bad. Like, bad things could happen gradually, and they happen gradually, so then you don't know that they're changing. And it can happen in the good way, because then one day you wake up and you're just like, oh my gosh. And I think a lot of Christians can attest to that. Like, it's a real thing.
No, but that was good, because things do gradually happen and gradually change, and you'll notice that, one, you'll just naturally start talking to God more. You'll be asking God for more things. He'll be speaking to you more. Like, you'll have more discernment. You'll be able to feel the peace, or see the, like, the right path easier. But again, it doesn't really happen right away. And there's really not one magical time, I don't think. But
he moves in people differently too. Like,
is important.
Jake and I have talked about that. Like, his was more of, like, immediate, like, boom, like, I'm kind of saved kind of thing. And some people's it's not. Like, he moves in different people differently. For certain reasons.
Yeah.
And that's valid.
Okay, this next one is going to a secular college as a Christian. I would say, the thing is though, just because you're at a secular college doesn't mean there isn't a Christian community. There are still, like, young adult nights. Like, I went to the University of Iowa, and they had, like, this thing called SALT every Thursday. And there's different church. Like, you can get involved. You just have to seek it out maybe more.
Yeah, I kind of have a different POV. I went to a Christian school and played soccer there my first year. And nobody that I hung out with was Christian. Not one teacher was Christian, not one coach, maybe, but not really. Not one advisor, not one...
That's crazy.
Teammate, really. I mean, kind of, but ish in a way. And I wasn't really living that out either, so, like, no judgment.
No, but you're just, like, stating. Like...
Yeah, and, like, they have a lot of rules in place, but, like, I don't think I've ever seen a parking garage filled with so many, like, drank alcohol cans or nicotine or anything. And it, like, I went to a Christian school, and, like, think about, like, TCU. Like, TCU is, like, one of the biggest party schools, and it's a Christian school. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't think it matters what school you're really at, because you're gonna get the party scene and you're gonna get the opposite no matter where you go. It just, again, goes back to, like, who you hang out with. You don't need, like, if you go to a secular school, you don't need to go out.
No.
You don't need to go and do those things. You don't need to be in a sorority. You don't need to be in a frat.
The temptation might be harder.
Yeah, the temptation might be harder.
Like, there's still that community, and you just stay more...
Yeah, you stay to yourself. You find your people within whatever.
But I think you would do that regardless. You know, you just find your people, and you don't really branch out too much from, like, your community and your circle.
Exactly.
So it's, like, just find the right people, and you might just have to be more strong-willed and more self-controlled and more disciplined in finding those people right away, because there's going to be temptations. There's going to be other people who want to go out and you want to go party, and they're doing this and they're doing that. You might be exposed to more of that, even just at a bigger school in general, because, like she said, she went to Christian schools. There's a lot of Christian schools that aren't super
and
Christian.
my other thing when I quit was, like, I could have transferred right away to go to ASU. Like, I thought about it, and then I was like, do I do the whole sorority girl thing? Do I do it all? And I knew deep down that that was not me. Like, I think I probably would have shot myself. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I don't think I could do it. Props to all of you guys that can do that, but, like, not my thing.
No.
But I thought about it. Like, I would be lying if I didn't say it crossed my mind.
Yeah.
Did I word that right? I don't know, whatever. But I knew that if I was going to be in that type of environment, it wouldn't have led me to where I am now.
Yeah.
You know, like, not saying that if you go to a school that is a big party school, you can't avoid it, but it's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah.
I just had this conversation with a friend the other day because she was struggling with this, but I think peer pressure is a real thing, especially now. It's like, oh, come on, you can come out with us. Oh, you can do this with us. Oh, like, one more night. It's Friday. Come on.
Fun.
Yeah, live, YOLO. You know what I mean? Like, that's your flesh.
Yeah.
That's not God. So I think if you put yourself in certain situations, like, it's kind of be a given, and you're going to have a lot of self-control and discipline to not do that.
Yeah.
But then again, you can't have one foot in and one foot out. You can't have one foot in the party scene and you can't have one foot in the word. Like, you can, but let me tell you, I've tried, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder than honestly being full party girl or being full Jesus freak, you know, like, it's...
Because you're going to be convicted, and you're going to be feeling guilty, and you're not going to be fulfilled, and it's going to be a constant, like, battle in your mind. It's going to be taking up so much energy and thought, like...
I just think, I don't even know, but I think find your people. Yeah. Find who you know is going to be a good influence on you. And just do your own thing. Yeah. It's only 4 years. I mean, if you're a freshman, you can get through it, as long as you have the right people around you. All kind of comes back to the same type of thing.
It does. How to deal with not feeling left out because you don't party. Just understand that's, like, it's not meant for you, and it wouldn't be fulfilling, and you wouldn't enjoy it. Like, that's what I have to remind myself. I'm like, if I did go, like, would I be happy? No. The whole time I was ever out, like, towards the end when I would go out because of that, I was like, why am I not home? Like, I just want to be home. That's all I could think about. I was just so excited for all of us to leave the whole time. So it just wasn't worth my time and energy. And then I replace that with doing things that are fulfilling and I love doing, and I have never felt FOMO, which I've never really been big on FOMO though. Like, I kind of just like doing what I want to do.
Yeah. I'm the same.
So I guess just understanding, like, there are substitutes, and you can have as much excitement and fulfillment and joy and pleasure and good things that you can in those things.
Yeah, I actually was just talking to the same girl about this the other day because she is going to ASU and she doesn't want to live that type of life anymore.
Yeah.
And she's like, how do I not feel like I'm left out? And I think the biggest thing is when you have friends that live a different life than you, or you have a boyfriend that lives a different life than you, or vice versa, or whatever, and they want to go out, and you let them do their thing, but it's not your thing, you're going to be missing out because you don't know, like, because you're not with your friend. I think it's like when I played soccer and I had a game the next day and I couldn't go, I was like, oh, well, all my friends are there and I'm missing out. But it's like if none of my friends were there, I wouldn't have cared. You know, like,
right. So
you know
find
what I mean?
friends who want to do what you want to do.
Exactly. I think it's like, well, if your boyfriend wants to go and you don't want to go, you're going to be like, oh, well, are other girls talking to him? Like, you want to be there because you want to, like, you know what I mean? Like, that kind of thing. I think that's, like, where FOMO stems from. Or, like, oh, the guy I like's there and I'm not there. Or, oh, the girl I wanted to be friends with is there and I'm not there. Or whatever. I'm just making this up. But, like, I think that's where it comes from, not actually, like, the party itself, you know? Like, I don't know, like, who would have fun if none of your friends were there? So, like, that's kind of my thing. So, it's like, if you said you wanted to go to a party, and I'm like, I'm not going, I'd feel weird, like, oh, well, Chloe's there, and I wish I was there. But, like, obviously, you don't have that interest, and I don't have that interest, and now it's like, oh.
that struggle.
We don't have that.
deal with anymore, because that's like.
No, never.
We found people who enjoy doing what we enjoy doing, and, like,
never.
what aligns with our morals and values and our boundaries.
And the other thing that I have noticed is get off Snapchat. Genuinely. Snapchat, your 5 closest friends, whatever, whoever you talk to, that's literally all I do. But, like, remove yourself from private stories, genuinely, because all of it is a highlight reel. None of it is real. I mean,
you always hear, like, the stories after the fact, and you're like, that happened? I didn't realize that. Like, you know, you only see a small percentage, and you're like, I'm glad I wasn't there after the fact. And it's like, well, I wish I would have never even felt a single ounce of.
I'm so far removed from it now, and, like, I'll go on Snapchat and I'll be like, wow, all of that's going on right now. Like, right? You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, oh, they have a dager here and they have a rager here, and oh, this is going on, and oh, it's sorority rush and recruitment. And I'm like, huh? Like, I would have had no idea if I went on Snapchat. Wasn't on Snapchat. You know what I mean? So I think if, like, you're new to it, and, like, when I was transitioning, if I just got rid of Snapchat, like, I think I would have been golden. You know, that's my biggest thing.
If you don't
I think
see
Snapchat,
it, you don't know what you're missing, and then it just
same thing with Instagram, but I think Instagram's different. I feel like Snapchat is just such, like, a quick
in the moment, like those little things. Okay, and then the last question for this section is on we've been talking for a while, so we need to wrap this up. On modesty. So I feel like that's something that I'm, like, learning and experiencing and dabbling in. And I think my heart posture has changed a lot, because a lot of it is about your heart posture, and it's like, why are you wearing that? But I've also too understood is, like, I understand the way God made men and how God made women, and it's kind of a natural instinct for men to, like, notice certain things, and that's just kind of the way it is. Like, they're hardwired to, like, notice if your boobs are hanging out of your shirt. Like, that's just, it's the way men are, I'm gonna be honest. And so it's like, I like to eliminate those situations, honestly, for the respect too of, like, other men, because sometimes it's, like, a married man, and I don't want to be putting myself in a situation that would, like, instinctually make him look, and then he feels guilty about it because he has you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of my reasoning, is, like, I do it almost for others. I think twice now, but, like, I still wear sports bras, I still wear little spandex in the gym, but I definitely, like, have to trust my, like, listen to my convictions, and everyone's going to be convicted differently. Everyone's going to be convicted at different times, and like, I don't know, like, if you don't feel convicted wearing something, like,
this one's kind of hard to talk about, because I feel like
I know
it's new to me too. We also live in a very, very hot state where people wear nothing. Like, and I used to be one of those people.
Same.
And now I, like, put certain shirts on that I used to wear, and I'm like, that's why my grandma looked at me funny when I used to wear the shirt.
I think that too.
You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, duh. That makes so much more sense. And my heart has definitely changed on it, but I don't think I'm perfect. And I don't think anybody is. But I think there's a time and place for everything. I think working out in a long sleeve shirt and leggings every single time would be awful, personally.
I hate that.
And I think that is a specific scenario where there is a time and a place where you can wear a sports bra and you can wear spandex and wear a cover shirt there and wear it after. But like in the gym when you're working out, like that's what you wear. Like I don't think that there's, within reason, anything wrong with it. And that could change. I don't know. But I think
it's a very personal
time
thing.
and place. Yeah. Like read the room, know what's going on, know the event you're going to.
Think about who's going to be there. Think about who could potentially like see you and how that would affect them and the people in their life and how it would affect you and the people in your life.
Yeah.
Like,
and my biggest thing too is like everyone judges, okay? We're all guilty of it.
Yeah.
And now that I post a lot more about God and I don't have like a huge following by any means, but like now that I post more about it, like people look at what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh,
you know what I mean?
What's
they look at what you're doing.
I sent you today. It was like, you might be the only bit of Jesus someone sees.
Yeah, you might be the only Bible that someone ever hears or listens to or sees. Like,
yeah.
And that's such a real thing. So like, I'm way more conscious of it now. Like if I'm going out to lunch with a friend, like, oh, what am I going to wear?
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm perfect, but like I do think about it. And I think the big part of it is knowing. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We do live in a very, very hard state to kind of like wrap our mind around it in a way. But like, I think we have grown a lot in this in the past couple of months too.
Yeah.
And I think our boyfriends would be the first people to tell us if they don't think that's appropriate.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes I ask Kyler, I'm like, okay, thoughts. Because he'll give me his honest opinion too, and he has a different perspective, especially coming from a male. And it's like, as a guy, like, is this revealing?
They know.
And they'll be honest. And that's why, again, it's good to have those people in your corner and it's good to have the community because they'll call you higher. They're not calling you out. Talked about that a lot on my last episode. And it's like having girlfriends too. And I'd be like, hey, Emma, like, we're going to church.
Yeah.
Like, maybe, you know, or like, hey, Emma, like, we're going to
and it's not fun.
No, it's uncomfortable and you're going to probably be offended at first, but you have to trust and understand it's coming from a good place in their heart with good intention.
And delivery is everything too. I'm not going to be like, Chloe, why are you wearing that? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I'd be like, hey, maybe just like,
different choice next time.
Yeah, like throw on, like maybe just throw on a little.
I'll bring
like,
you a jacket. Yeah. Like it's going to be okay.
But it is hard, but sometimes too, it's like okay to like ask other people's opinions and stuff because you, again, like you might not be convicted of it, but it might be like alarming to someone else. And again, like I just don't want to be that person to make someone else uncomfortable. And sometimes I'm just unaware. So it is good to have those people in your life to be like.
Yeah. And I think that goes hand in hand with like what you're posting too.
Yeah. And that's been hard for me too.
I've always kind of been mindful with this, like with college coaches following me, and like it was always a big thing. Like, don't post alcohol on your stuff. Don't like when I used to drink, not an issue for me anymore. But like, you just think about it a lot more now. You're like, so many more people are noticing that I'm different.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I just feel weird about it now because I'm like, why would I post that knowing that X, Y, and Z are following me and they're brand new to this whole thing? Like, they shouldn't. Yeah. You can lead by example.
Like, I was just going to say, literally set an example.
And I'm sure you've changed that completely too. Just with your following and everything. Like,
yeah, no, it's hard because
and you probably have lost followers because of it.
Oh, sure. And I get asked this question so many times. And it's always like it's still like something I have to pray on and think about, and I'm still kind of on this journey of figuring out like activewear and what to wear, and sometimes I'm like,
me too. It's hard,
you know, and I have to give myself grace with it because I do truly like think about it and I listen to my convictions and I pray about it, and it's all, my intention is always in a good spot. I never wear something to be like, oh, I want men to look at me in this.
No, yeah.
If I'm wearing something, it's because I feel good in it. But that's the line that I'm trying to figure out right now is like, just because I feel good, is that like my flesh, or is that like, it's okay to be confident to feel good. So,
that's kind of,
I'm in that in between. And so honestly, that's something I might have to like get advice on myself.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think we both we're very good mentors, but I think we could seek mentorship in this area.
Yes.
So maybe our advice isn't the best for this, but that's our POV.
That's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing now.
Best way to balance a busy schedule. So honestly, as a 20-year-old, as everyone in our life too is pretty much like one form of self-employed. Like you do Arbonne, you do a lot of stuff like that's not requirement hours that you have to like learn to, you know.
You don't have to clock in. You have to be there a certain time.
Yeah,
like,
and like that's how Jake and Kyler are. That's how I am. And so scheduling is really complicated because there's not a lot of structure, so we have to create our own structure. And that's, I think, the best way for me to balance a busy schedule is to have a routine, to have structure, to have boundaries. Like, Kyler and I used to hang out like all the time, and we had to set like boundaries and be like, okay, we need to cut back because
I'm not getting this done.
Are not pouring enough into ourselves to be able to pour back into each other and to like grow our relationship.
Period.
That was a hard truth to,
again, not fun conversations.
No.
You get through them.
But you got through them, and now we're like reaping the reward of it, and it's so much better because he's thriving in work, and I feel like my work has like benefited as well. And then when we come together, I'm way more excited to see him, and I appreciate the time more, and it's more intentional. So honestly, just like evaluating and reflecting like often on your routines and your schedules is really important, because sometimes we get into too much of a routine that we don't realize what we're doing isn't working anymore because things change. But like having, like, I write like my daily to do like to the hour most days, because I have to stay on track and I have to stay like efficient, because I always say if I have 5 hours to do 500 things, I'll get them done. If I have 5 hours to do 5 things, I'll take all 5 hours to do all 5 things. So it's
period.
like,
I've never heard that.
That's and so like I know that about myself, and so I'll write like 6 to 7, make breakfast, get up, read your Bible. 7 to 8, get ready for the gym and be out the door at the gym. Gym's 8 to 9:30, come back. Like I schedule my shower, like I schedule on every little thing. But
I'm glad you're like that too, because I'm a big planner.
Yeah, and it helps. And so it's like you just have to have a plan. And I have in the past said too, like there's different seasons of your life where some things will be priority over others. Sometimes you need more friendships and you need more socialization because that's just what you need in the time. So you have to prioritize that higher. Sometimes your work needs more. Sometimes your relationship needs more. Like it's going to vary. And so you just have to constantly be checking in.
My biggest issue was my entire life since I was 5 years old has been planned out for me.
Yeah.
Monday through Friday, you go to school. You have practice, you have lift, you have film. Friday, most of the time, you're out of state playing soccer somewhere. You come back, you go to school on Monday. You do it over and over and over and over again without fault. Like, I had no choice, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I wanted to do, but like that was my life. So everything was planned down to a T. Every single travel trip had an itinerary. The itinerary was sent out a week before. Like, everything has been pretty much planned to an hour of my life for the most part. I had all this time on my hands. After I walked away from it, I literally didn't know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely. So, and now I have 2 jobs. I work at a golf course and I have an online job. So, like, none of my days are the same. None of my weeks are the same. But, like, being in a routine is probably the best thing that you can do for yourself. Like, if you do something for 30 days, it becomes a habit for the most part.
Yeah.
So, like, and I know that about myself, but I just physically can't do that right now. I try my best, but like, so I just think the best thing to balance is like, know what you need to do. There's wants and needs in life, but like, if you know what you need to do and you get that done, then all the leftover time is for what you want to do.
Yeah. That's how I kind of structure my days too.
Yeah. So that's what I'd say about balancing stuff, having a plan, and knowing what you need to do versus what you want to do. And don't be too hard on yourself, but like, then again, you know what works best for you. Some people like to fly by the seat of their pants and they get everything done. Yeah. Some people don't. It just works different for different people. So that's what I'd say.
Yeah, just get your needs done and then you can do your wants and then boom.
Period. Life is great.
Last 2 questions. How to grow in your relationship with the Lord. The best 2 things that have helped me is get in the Word, read my Bible, and even when actually I heard this in Girls Gone Bible, so I'm crediting them, but I like it like so good. So when I started reading the Bible, I started in the Old Testament. I was reading this. It was like literally foreign language to me. I was like not really. I didn't think I was retaining a lot. But then what they said, and this was so good. They were like, "You don't remember what you ate a week ago, but did it still nourish you?" Yes. Okay. So it's like you don't necessarily know what you're reading, but it's still nourishing you. Like it's still planting seeds. It's still going to stick with you in ways that you don't even realize. And 2, the more you read it, 1, the more like of a routine it comes, the more of a habit it becomes. But then the more you'll be sitting in church and you'll be like, oh, I read about that. And then it starts, more dots begin to connect. And then it just gets easier. It's like studying. Like the more you study, the easier it becomes. It truly does, because like I'm in like 1 Samuel and now I'm like so into it. Like it took me a little bit, but now I'm like, oh, and I remember certain stories that I've heard in a sermon or like a random podcast, or I'll be listening to something on TikTok and I'm like, oh, I read about that. And more dots can begin to connect, and that helps grow my confidence in my faith. And that was one thing that was really hard, is I had no confidence because I'm like, I don't know anything. Like I literally, you guys, knew nothing when I started, and I have learned, so I still have so much to learn, but we
both do. Yeah. But I remember you talking to me, you're like, dude, I don't know what's going on. Like, I feel so I felt like not prepared, but like
unfit, kind of. Like I just didn't.
And I told her, I was like, everyone has different walks. Everyone walks at different paces. Everyone has different things that they're better at. But I think, I mean, the Bible's not technically supposed to make sense. Half of it's written in a different language. Or it was. So the Girls Gone Bible thing is really good. Like you might not understand it, but it's still feeding your soul in a certain sense. But I think the best place to start is like getting a Bible. If you don't have one, get one. One that makes sense. Like get an NIV version or an NLT version.
And study Bibles are really helpful too.
And study Bibles. And I would start like, I don't know, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are probably the best to understand, because those were Jesus' disciples. Like they were with him and they wrote the story from their POV. And so I think those are the easiest to understand because they're coming right from them. But everyone reads things differently. Everybody retains things differently. But I think the two things are, read your Bible. It's there for a reason. It's been the same for thousands of years. And it's never going to change. And
it never will. I love when people say that. I'm like, it's so true.
Like it's never going to change. It's never going to be written differently. And I also think praying. No one can change your prayer life except for you. I don't think nobody hears it. Except for, unless you're praying around people. Like nobody hears it but you and God. And I think a lot of people are scared to pray because they think it's weird or something like that. Like I don't.
There's like
I guess I kind of had like a weird thing about it once too, but like even when I wasn't super faithful, I'd pray before bed.
Same.
Why? I don't know.
Right? Isn't that crazy?
But like, I did it.
Like you should. Like you have that like calling to do it. But
and he makes it easier for you. Like once he knows that you are wanting to try to have a relationship with him, he'll help you out. Like,
and that's what I've learned too, because I used to hate praying out loud, and I still kind of like get nervous. But again, too,
she's improved amazingly.
And I do it now. Like I used to just pray before I'm like, when I would eat my meals, like I pray, but I force myself to pray out loud, because I'm like, I have to like teach myself how to do, like repetitions like help, like experience helps. So like if praying for you is hard, like it is me, like start using opportunities to like practice. And I just do it sitting at that kitchen table behind you every single day when I eat my meal, because I don't even have bar stools. It's at that table. But I say praying, read your Bible, and be like getting plugged into a church community has been so helpful, because again, your environment's everything. And like young adults nights or study groups, Bible studies are so amazing, because you'll be able to connect and meet people, and again, like they will raise you higher. Like Christians are very good at like calling you higher and like not calling you out, but calling you higher, and like ensuring that you're, I don't know, they're just really helpful. Growing. That's like a perfect word for that.
And it doesn't need to be, like we've said before, it doesn't happen overnight. Like, and you probably won't even notice that it's happening at all. Until one day, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. So, I don't know, just believe in yourself, believe in God, and he'll do the rest. I think is kind of just, you have to start somewhere. You start somewhere with anything. So buy a Bible, read it, pray
and get plugged in as much as you can.
Like
it's gonna be scary going to a Bible study the first time alone, especially if you don't know the Bible, but everyone there once started too, and everyone there wants to help. Like as a Christian, I get why people are like want to speak life into people, and want to speak like help them. And when I get DMs about getting like closer to growing your like relationship with God, it gets me so excited. So it's like walking into that Bible study, no one's gonna be like, oh, we gotta like brief this again. No one thinks that. Like everyone is so excited to help you, because they want you to have what they have. And that's like joy and peace, and it's just so good. So you gotta take a step, but like God will open those doors. He will like, he has the paved path. You got to trust him. You got to trust him and being like, I'm going to go to church alone today, but it's going to be okay, because either I'm going to be there sitting alone and it's going to inspire someone else to continue to go, or you're going to meet somebody, or like there's something being done by that. So have confidence in that.
Yeah.
But honestly, those three things I would say.
Yeah. And just find a church that you genuinely love.
Yes, that's big,
I think
actually.
for the longest time, kind of forced myself to fit into a church that wasn't me. It just wasn't my church, and that's okay. And you're not going to be truly passionate about something that you're not, like, that you don't fit to.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense,
Yeah,
but like,
does.
I didn't want to volunteer there. Like, I was like, The second I walked into Impact, I was like, this is my place. This is where I want to serve. This is where I want to be. And you'll just know. It's like, you'll just know. So I think that's a big one too. You can try out different churches. Like, you don't need to be like stuck at one you try the first time you ever go to church.
Yeah.
Like, you might not, I mean, everyone has different options, and I don't know people's circumstances, but there's going to be something out there that is the right fit for you.
For sure.
That's my advice.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's,
The last one was about
how to support each other's faith as friends. When you have a relationship or a friendship that's like centered around God, one, it's like the best. Like, it's the best type of friends. It's the best type of relationships, because you can have really good conversations. You really get to know people's hearts. I feel like people are less guarded, and it really helps you grow. It helps you grow together. The more you get to know somebody, like, the better you can, like, help them and treat them, and it just benefits, like, the friendship more.
Yeah.
And like, having those people, I don't know, you just
it just comes more naturally. Like, I think we were both sitting here the other night, and I came over at like 6:00.
Yeah.
I came over to watch Bachelor, right? We didn't turn the Bachelor on until 8:15 at night.
Yeah.
Okay, we sat here in the dark.
Yeah, the sun was like gradually setting. Like, I watched the sunset out of the window, and the next thing I knew, it was like way too dark.
Yeah, like, it was literally dark. I had to turn that lamp on. Like, and the entire time we were pretty much talking about, I mean, not specifically about God, but like, it came up in every single conversation.
Yeah.
And not even like we weren't trying to, it's just by default. Like, it just kind of happens. And I think that's because you were put in my life for a reason, and Jake was put in my life for a reason, and Kyler was put in my life for a reason. And I think when you put yourself in the right situations, the right people are going to come around, and it's just going to be natural and easy. I remember I used to sit at lunch with friends, and like, we wouldn't talk about anything. I'm like, ew, this is awkward. I'm like, ew. Like, that's such an awkward, horrible feeling to have. And I don't think we've ever really had that.
No.
And I don't think
No, not at all.
the like 5 closest people in my life right now with me have that.
Same.
Literally 3 of them being you guys. So it's like, it's just, it's not going to feel forced. It's not going to feel like,
easy.
It's not going to feel weird. And I think that's just how you know you have the right friends or relationships or whatever in your life. So yeah, it's not really advice, but it's kind of just
how to support each other. Just ensuring you have like the right heart posture too. Going into conversations and how you treat them and stuff. Like, check yourself, and then like lead with that. So.
But I feel like we've kind of covered this topic too, just throughout everything we've talked about.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a lot. That was a long episode. Thanks for kicking it with us the whole time.
I think we kind of killed it, though. We
did. This is fun.
We got distracted a few times.
Thanks for coming on, Emma.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
There'll be much more of Emma to come.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, love you guys so much, and we'll chat next week. Bye.